the ideologies, the foundation, what we thought it was going to be, and the business side was not what everyone was on the same page with.
I will say we have not one more topic. Well, it's like a combined topic. I will say that. It's a combined topic. So, how do I put this? There is there is a podcast that we've covered here a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I Am Athlete, okay? And Moose loves this podcast.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Loves this podcast. It was like telling me to put it on the podcast like 19 different times, and I'm just like, can't keep covering them.
Keep using the same podcast, man.
Can't keep it. And he was like, yo, let's break it down like 5 different parts. I was like, we can't use their whole podcast.
The whole episode?
Or you just want me to play the whole episode? Yeah, it was all good. I believe it was. But they recently parted ways. Parted ways, and we have a response of maybe why this parted ways, and we're really trying to go about it from a branding and business side, not from a gossipy side or anything like that, but definitely from a branding and business side. And let's just get into it.
The last podcast we were on with B. Marsh and them, we needed the ideologies of it, the foundation of it was different than what we thought it was going to be. Early on, it was just guys sitting around just like we talk, like, hey, let's do this, RC.
Right.
Let's mess off. Locker room talk. Let's chop it up and do this. And then as it blew up, the ideologies, the foundation, what we thought it was going to be, and the business side was not what everyone was on the same page with.
So, Moose, you start this off.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a big disappointment in a sense, right? I mean, the fact that this was a podcast I think a lot of people enjoyed, all different ages, all different groups, men and women. Although it's a podcast that is primarily hosted by men, but I think obviously the clip tells you what happened, right? Over time, things evolved. The reason for why they started was not what they were going after.
Right.
So they were like big changes, which I'm sure for anyone is going to make you kind of wonder, like, what's happened. I'm sure the audience, to some extent, especially if you fell in love with something, you fall in love with your favorite show, they come back for season 2 or season 3, and it's a completely different concept. You're probably going to be pretty upset as well.
Yep.
But the part that sticks out to me is the idea of what we kind of touched on in the beginning is this concept of role awareness, role clarity, right? Really understand the different contributions that each person makes.
Yeah.
So I get why there is disappointment or frustration for walking away or no longer wanting to continue. But I look at those issues and say, man, was it not made clear in the beginning what each person's role and responsibility was? Or was it not made clear what the vision overall was and how it can expand based on what comes up? Because there are certain things that you plan for. There are other things that you simply will not know until you walk down that path and see what's at the fork in the road.
Yeah, it's funny because we saw both kind of their responses to kind of the question. And the funny thing about it is that with B. Marshall, the question was, yo, is this like the Joe Budden breakup? And he's like, nah, it's not. But didn't really like kind of defend it either, right? So what I'm getting from what we just saw is, the vision wasn't clear. Like what we started from and what it is now is 2 different things. Whereas when we covered the Joe Budden thing, it was more, of course, the transparency and the communication about money, but also the vision as well.
Right.
Because Joe was creating a huge podcast network and, they didn't really get that part. So when you're looking at probably a group of people, and this is where we kind of want to talk it out as far as the brand and business side of it is like when you're working with a group of people, how important it is to stay very transparent about the vision and very transparent about the business moves. Because if everybody is involved in it, like it's important. Maybe not everybody does see like the grand scheme of things. They came in for a particular reason. And if it goes and changes, then what does that leave them? Like, they may feel a certain kind of gap or a void that isn't really being explained. And so, you know, like I assume as we're seeing how their brand kind of is just like, I am this, I am that, I am Miami, I am LA, I'm thinking about doing Houston, I'm NASCAR, I'm like taking a full advantage of, like, you know what, let's be everything of I am sports somehow, some way, and be for the culture in this perspective that we have of from athletes, from wives of athletes, from you know, I guess with the NASCAR thing, like just minorities in NASCAR, you know, and let's just continue to create, because what was very interesting about B. Marshall's response, and we're going to get into a little bit of it from a different perspective, but he was like, okay, we saw the success with I Am Athlete. Now, can we do it again? Because that's true success. Like, it's not a fluke. It's not like, and I know shout out to CJ, he was big on that. Like, okay, we did good with Eric Thomas, but can I do that again? So they did Maul. Shout out to Jamal King. It's like, okay, maybe you're just dope in speakers. Did it with Toby. You know, so people who are successful in one thing don't want to necessarily be known as maybe that was the fluke. What can you do again? What can you do again? And I think I've even had to deal with that. Like, okay, you're successful with E, but can you do it again? Right? And for me, and being fully transparent, I'm not going to do it again for somebody else. I'm going to do it again for myself. You know?
Come on.
So it's like, I get it. I get what Brandon Marshall was trying to do as far as, like, let's expand. He's having the entrepreneurship mind. Like, yo, this is working. Let's create a whole situation out of it. Let's not just keep it a show. You guys may have kept it. You wanted to keep a show. But you were sold a show.
Right.
I said, hey, let's do this show. I think it could get sold. You probably didn't say, hey, I think this is a show. We could create a whole network and create more and more content for the rest of our lives.
Right.
I'm like, sir, you can't be... I don't think anybody's mad. Was great about all of them. They're like, yo, I support what everybody is doing. And I think that's cool. So with that, I don't think it is a Joe Budden situation, because
they're not going at each other.
Yeah, they're not doing that. But what I do find funny is if there's a breakup within a podcast, expect another podcast.
Yeah.
Because like the Rory and Maul podcast is booming.
Killing it.
I think they have $1 million deal.
Wow.
They've been going on tour. They've been having great guests, right? And it's just so great to see, because it's like, what you think you knew us for, watch us do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're still going to be fine, you know? And this is why it's so cool to create such a fan base, because there are people who are rooting for him, like, yo, we followed you from here. We're going to go support you.
We'll go over there too. Yep.
Right. Some maybe even listening to both. Like, I love both of y'all. So I'm going to listen to Joe, and I'm going to listen to Rory and Maul.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, they're continuing to have great guests. So it's more of, how do we keep the communication going And what do you do when you find that first thing that's like, oh, I don't see this. Like, I don't see the vision. Because if you could see that from the front end, you won't reach these certain points, because now I'm not gonna say it looks crazy. No, I'll say a little bit. It looks crazy. Like, what we know of I Am Athlete is just now Brandon Marshall.
Right. Well, I mean, let me ask you this. Is it that we don't know how to collaborate properly? We don't know how to come to the table and take a creative idea and bring people in and kind of figure things out so that we don't, because it kills me to see people reach success and then split up. You get me? Like, it's like, wait, but that's the pinnacle. Like, everyone is going after that thing that you all have just accomplished.
Right.
And we get there and then we split up.
Right.
From one side of it, I think it's what I've always called the blanket statements, which is like, this is what success means, and we think that's what it is. And then we get there and we're like, you're just looking around like, yo, this is just terrible. I don't want to be here.
Yep.
Take me back where I came from.
Yep.
So I do think it's lack of knowledge on what it takes. And then the other part of it, it makes me wonder, like, yo, do we not know how to collab? Like, are there certain rules and principles that people should think about before coming together to avoid this situation? Because, like, from one side of it, every day we're seeing people collab, and we appreciate it. We're even encouraging people to do so.
Yeah.
But my question to you is there a right way and a wrong way to collab?
I think it is the who it is, right? What I mean by it is, like, there's certain personalities that can be misunderstood if they're not communicating right. You know, I mean, we go through the flight assessment all the time. We haven't done it in a minute on the podcast, but like, you know, I would assume that Brandon Marshall within the flight assessment is probably a pilot.
Yeah.
Right. For those who don't know what a pilot is, Moose, can you break that down real quick?
Man, it has been a long time, but
let's
just give you at least the pilots themselves, man. People who are bottom line oriented, results driven. They like to get things done right now.
Yeah. So I would say that, you know, Brandon had the drive and the vision, right, of everything. And the other ones may have just wanted that role that they had, right? And in that particular situation, they collaborated fine.
Yeah.
It's when it got bigger where the vision wasn't very clear. And because Brandon Marshall is more of a let's go, let's grow and let's figure it out as we go.
Right.
The other ones may not have been in the same alignment with that. And then, of course, we can't sit here and say maybe some money wasn't agreed upon.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't know details, so that's why we're not necessarily talking too much on that. But overall, it's if you have one person who, as we call it, as a pilot, that is just driving the ship, driving the plane, just and not really communicating to the people who are also on the plane.
Yeah.
They're just full blown going. There could be a communication gap. There could be a gap in some way, shape, or form. So I don't necessarily think that we can't necessarily collaborate. We just certain personalities need to learn when to communicate with their people and when not to, you know. And when that is done, because we've seen great collaborations with all types of personalities. And it was probably with full-blown transparency, great business models, laid everything out on the table as far as money, you know, and opportunities. And if that's all there, I think collaborations can happen with no problem.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think the only thing that I would say is ultimately the person who's carrying the biggest burden or the greatest piece of the risk is under different circumstances than people who are just showing up as supporting cast. Mm-hmm. So that's the only kind of fine line that I would say in this, is that it's difficult to really trust and do something for somebody else if the risk is all on your back.
Okay.
You know, like if you got to carry everything and this person's not even there, or they're, you know, like your name is on the contracts, your name is on the invoices, your name is on this. It's like, if you leave, I still owe this money.
Right.
Hypothetically speaking, right? So
Right.
I think for the person who is carrying the greatest piece of the risk, that from a collaboration standpoint, it may seem unfavorable, but if that's the case, I think people should start paying their way.
But then, okay, so you're gonna hit a nerve. I'm gonna try to move slowly with this one, because okay, so if we're talking about I am athlete, right? And what Moose was saying was more like, because Brandon Marshall was talking about, you know, yo, I put this in, I put this in, I put this in, I put 50 G's for the production, I put this, I put that. Now, that's not to say we don't know what the others have done. So I'm not particularly going to speak too heavy on that. But what I will speak on is, what if they were never given an opportunity to put money in? You know, what if the person was more like, I'll take care of it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, you guys don't worry, you just stay your role.
Right.
But then kind of uses it as a clutch as well.
Yep, as leverage, yeah.
Yeah, like, yo, I did this. Like, how do you, I don't know if it's like, how do you identify that? Because it's very hard.
It's difficult, yeah.
It's very hard because they lead with very genuine situations, but when then something happens, then the blame game comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do you, I believe like, there has to be if there's equal giving, equal sacrifice, right? Some person might put up all the money. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because what are the other people doing?
Yeah.
And is it valued? That's very important. Mm-hmm. Because some people may think the money is more important than necessarily the support or the actions of getting people there and making sure the guests are cool and they got all the rooms and they come on time.
Yeah.
That person who put up the amount of money may not have really cared about that because maybe they feel like they could do it.
Right.
So I think if we can understand the roles everybody plays and put value to it, I think that's where everything can go a little bit smoother. But of course, it's hard when you put up a guap of money and then it's like, I know why I have you guys here and it probably may not have happened. Even though the way he played, like, yo, they wanted me to change this person, that person, this person. And I said, no, these are my guys. But I think at the end of the day, you're still doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what's been happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if I can extract any lessons from it and even from experience, I think the single most important part of any negotiation is the beginning of the conversation.
That's good.
Because if you go into that first conversation and you're just excited at the fact that you're partnering, you're collaborating, or the potential earning income of whatever it may be or whomever it may be with, and you don't put or make clear what the points are, what the things are that are important to you, there is no going back. You can't say, oh, well, you know, Nicky, I tried it, and actually, can we go back? It's like, no.
Can't do
right?
it.
So it's like if you want to avoid bad scenarios, And that's why even like from a business standpoint, we always have a saying that says, hire slow,
Yeah.
fire fast.
Yeah.
Because if I take my time to vet, have multiple conversations, and really see what's happening, and what's this about, and ask my questions, and give you the opportunity to ask me questions, after a couple of those meetings, I'm gonna know if this is a go or not.
Yeah.
But if I commit to you fast, then everything else that comes up is gonna feel like a surprise because you can give me your best impressions on the very first time. Whatever happens after that is no clue. So I think it's the same thing at the negotiation table. You gotta be very clear with laying those things out front, because once you're past that negotiation stage, you don't have leverage. If you're not the one who's running the ship, you don't have leverage to come back and want to call out shots or want to make changes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.